being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a grab.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's the warrior spirit right there, boy.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
90-yard touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
It's going to be picked off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Herbert sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Knighton. Caught! Touchdown, Chargers!
That's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to the Thunder Down Under Chargers Football Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Prophet, joined always by fellow Chargers Fruit Loops, Alistair Lloyd and Jack Reed. Gentlemen, it is an absolute joy and a pleasure to have you both on board with me today. We've got some content for you. That's what we've got. Before we get stuck into the show today, a quick thank you, as always, to the great support and feedback we've received throughout our guest series shows. We really appreciate all your kind words and, feedback an awful lot. If you're joining us on YouTube, please take a moment right now while you're settling into the show just to hit the like button if you're enjoying what we're doing, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already to get notified, because football season's upon us and there's a lot of content coming your way. Now today, the show. Unfortunately, guys, no epic hype tracks or brutal Aussie quizzes this week. We do, however, have football to talk about. Training camp is a week or so in. Plenty of fun sights and sounds to discuss there. But the crux of today's episode, and next week's for that matter, is something that's quite special to the three of us. A little bit of backstory. When we first toyed with the idea of recording our chats on the Chargers and the NFL was back sort of near the start of 2020, around the pandemic kicking off. Here in Melbourne, where the three of us were living at the time, we suffered quite long and stringent lockdowns as part of the course for minimizing the spread and all that. So without physically socializing, we took to Microsoft Teams, Zoom, to crack a few beers and talk shit, essentially, covering all 32 teams at the beginning of the season. And, well, as far as the recordings go, we had no idea of where to go from there. We've come a bit of a way since then. And while we're not going to sit you through the breakdown of all 32 teams in the league, although I'm pretty sure Alistair has probably prepared himself for such an event, TDU is proud to present our opponent series.
Yeah.
Woo!
Awesome.
Crack a beer, get stuck in, guys.
Yep.
Cheers to all of you. This week, we're going to take a look through the Chargers' NFC West and AFC South opponents for the 2022 season around the horn style. So each of us will sort of present one of the teams that we're going to play, give a bit of an insight to the season that's passed, their off season, and we'll get into some predictions for the fixture when the Chargers play them. Jack, we'll get we'll get started with you, but first, have you seen anything that's really caught your eye in training camp?
Listen, there's many things. There's tweets every day. I think the people who are at training camp are doing a fantastic job and keeping us Aussies up to date and what's going on. The one thing I cannot miss is in every single photo of our first round draft pick of this year is the size of Zion Johnson's pipes. The man is a plumber. The guy's arms are as big as a small child each. He's got babies on both arms. He's clearly lost a lot of weight, I think, as well. He seems fitter. He seems stronger. And seeing those videos where he's blocking is just been fantastic to see. So, yeah, you can't miss him. Look for Zion Johnson's pipes. I love him.
Yeah, and on that same level, just did you see the highlights of Khalil Mack and Rashawn Slater one-on-one?
Oh, yeah.
I know they got their pads on. Finally, they can test each other's strength. And you saw that Mack got the better of him with leverage, but then Slater has that incredible strength just to hold him, where I would have been sent back 30 yards. Iron sharpens iron, so they say. The other obvious thing that we should mention is the Derwin James hold-in. That's become a lot more popular these days. It's happening around the league when a contract can't be negotiated, rather than avoiding the facility. The player just stays in. It's a bit of a love fest within the facility, but by all accounts, it's not a matter of if, it's when. The recent report from Taylor Bisciotti is it might be imminently. So we're expecting him to be back on the field and leading the troops as per usual, maybe with a slight pay rise since the last time he stepped onto the field. What do you reckon, Andy?
Yeah, and just as it, I'm sure it's just working out the finer details. So we'll just not hold our breath. We'll just make sure it gets done and be very thankful when it does. He's still out there. Like, he was still in walkthroughs. He's still got his kid on hanging around. He's just obviously doing the sensible thing and not participating for fear of injury. I've loved the Zion Johnson. Just to reiterate, there's plenty of guys to talk about as well. Justin Herbert's looking comfortable. He's happy to be back. He's got another offseason under his belt, which he probably, no doubtedly spent just studying tape and throwing the football, because he's a sicko like that, and we love him for it. Just so much exciting stuff. All the Chargers social media team does such a great job at just getting your blood to that level and filling things up, and just getting you so excited for the season ahead. So it's sad to see Drew Tranquil may have hurt his groin. We'll touch on that. You can only pray for so long about no injuries. But Jack, you were going to say, sorry?
I was going to say, I think MVP's the Chargers social media team. The All In series is fantastic to watch. That provides a lot of fun, and there's been I haven't gotten around to watching the special that came out a couple of days ago. I think there was one. But the other thing that I've been really interested in is it's clear that Isaiah Spiller's taken that second RB role. That's from all accounts, he's getting most of the reps with the firsts and most of the reps with the seconds. So fantastic. He's obviously listened to Austin's challenge and gone, I'm going to take that, baby. See you later, Roundtree. See you later,
and me slagging him off every episode we can.
He's not big enough. He's not strong enough. His metrics aren't right, blah, 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 blah. No, I reckon he's going to be all right.
I did this test and these were the results and he wasn't.
Is that how I sound, listeners? Maybe a little bit.
We've just heard it for 20 years, so.
Yeah. And another thing that's obvious to me, and this is one I feel like I'm getting right. Staley has a love affair going on with Mark Webb. Loves the guy. He never misses an opportunity to praise him. And as Garrett has been giving training camp updates through the lightning round, he's been saying that they've been using him all over the place, in the nickel, playing him in the slot, sort of outside corner, been rotating in with the ones as well as the twos. So now that he's finally healthy, looks like he might get a proper chance to contribute. And his high school buddy, Nazir Adderley, gave him some massive praise and shout outs at the press conference this morning. And he also sounded very impressive, and by all accounts, is killing it out there. So it's always good stuff. It's always positive news at this time of the season. No one is really ever commenting about how bad a certain player looks, although Jerry Tillery, there's been a noticeable absence of any news about him other than Zion Johnson pancaking him. But the last point I'll make about training camp so far is I had an epiphany the other day. I no longer wake up in the middle of the night in this cold sweat, morbid anxiety around training camp that I'm going to click online and read that overnight a key player's torn their ACL, like a la Ryan Jensen for Tampa. But it speaks to the kind of professionalism that now is, throughout our organization, the strength and conditioning staff. It seems to me there has just been a significant improvement in that respect. I no longer am fearful of that. I have trust in the organization. I'm touching wood as we speak.
Yeah, you rounded that out nicely, because I'm so sick of hearing you say exactly what you started that out with. It's just a mox. It's just not good. So yeah, cool. Our strength and conditioning coaching's a lot better. And Al can sleep at night. Fantastic.
Yeah, sometimes.
Oh, golly. Well, let's
there's actually one more thing I want to say. Hey, Bolt fam, let's ride. Hey, Bolt fam, let's ride. Hey, Bolt fam, let's ride. Oh my God, that was some of the best stuff coming out of the social medias of training camp. I love it. Keenan Allen is taking the piss out of our divisional quarterback, Russell Wilson, and God, it's no surprise to our listeners, but we're not a huge fan of Russell Wilson. Let's ride.
Especially his social media. I respect him as a footballer. Don't get me wrong. His social media is trash.
Woeful.
And his little quips, unlimited, let's ride. Oh, he drives me insane. He's just a really annoying human. in that regard. But
That
was
that's
probably
setting up,
yeah.
it's setting
when I
up
found that
such a
video
rivalry.
today,
It's awesome.
beautiful. Yeah, very, very good. Very good. Well, without further ado, let's move into the opponent series with the NFC West. Jack, take us away with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I guess we sort of decided on who's getting what team a little while ago, and I guess it's kind of serendipitous that I get the homework team, the team that needs their quarterback to do their homework. Mr. Kyler Murray, that's been taking off his contract clearly because of the distraction it's provided, but he's getting paid. He gets what he wants, but at what cost? I sort of see. I'm not going to spend too much time on them. I really like the addition of Trey McBride to learn under Zach Ertz there. I think that's going to be a really strong position for them. They lose Christian Kirk, but they gain Marquise Hollywood Brown. So I'm not sure if Hollywood Brown is kind of the receiver that's going to elevate the Kyler Murray to that really, really top 5 echelon. It could. I'm not too sure. Offensively, I think they're going to be up there. They're going to be quite difficult to stop, even though they were. Their overall offense was 17th PFF grade. It was their passing offense that's going to be quite challenging to stop. And I mean, we've got the cornerback room to perhaps now deal with that air raid style offense, the Kingsbury air raid offense. Rushing, they're 27th, which means, even if we didn't upgrade our defensive line, perhaps we could have dealt with them fine in that regard. I don't know if I'm a fan of the Cardinals. I don't really know if I'm a fan of Kyler Murray either. I look at their roster and I don't see players that I particularly enjoy. I did have a soft spot for JJ Watt for a while, and he's always someone you got to scheme for.
Long while.
I don't know. Listen, he was cool when he was at Houston. Now, I don't know. He's kind of, he's still, as I said, he's still someone you got to scheme for, but I'm not too sure how. He's not going to be playing 17 games, but he will be starting against us. Isaiah Simmons might be quite interesting, but I go through and I look at their secondary and I go, Byron Murphy's a fairly good quarterback. Buda Baker's serviceable. Yeah, the question I pose to you guys is, can Cliff Kingsbury, coach a full season or get this team through a full season? Does Kyler Murray have the ability to lead a team? Because there's two questions there, because it's all pointing towards that Kyler Murray can sometimes just be a little bit immature and, matched with sort of a first-time head coach in Kingsbury. Do they have it? I don't know. What do you reckon?
Well, do you want to jump in, Andy?
No, you've started now.
Okay. Well, look, I did my homework as well, unlike their QB1, and I went back and had a watch of the divisional round matchup when they placed, the wild card game against the Rams, where Kyler had that awful turnover in the red zone, the pick six, where he's worried he was going to be sacked for the safety by none other than Troy Reader, Chargers fans, and then sort of heaved it out there. But throughout that game, he was seriously rattled. He does not personify the air of calm that you expect from a leader at that position. They shot to him frequently on the sidelines, and he's not up there. Like, for all we pay out Russell Wilson, he'd be on his feet talking to his players. They're only down about 2 scores in the second, and Kyler Murray's sitting there, he's hanging his head. So I think there are question marks about his leadership style. I don't have a lot of faith in this GM head coach combo. I cannot believe they both got extended through to 2027. That is absolutely absurd.
Stunning, actually.
Stunning. It's trying to project organizational stability where there is none. President Michael Bidwell. So, and Keim is the luckiest man on earth. Oh, I swear to God. If you look at the man's first round draft picks since 2013, it's Jonathan Cooper, Dion Buchanan, DJ Humphreys, Robert Kendiche, Hassan Reddick, Josh Rosen, then Kyler Murray's a hit, Isaiah Simmons, Zaven Collins, and now they've traded for Hollywood Brown. That's a lot of whiffs in the first round, and that's why they have some deficiencies in their roster, which I'm sure, Andy, you'll speak about in a minute, the parts of the team you think look good versus others. But I see a team with a lot of variability in their output, because credit to Kyler Murray, it is quite impressive that, the trajectory, his young career and arc that it's taken so far. He's only been in the league 3 years, and he really was probably the MVP leader through 8 weeks last year. And I think it's safe to say he's about a top 10 quarterback, potentially with higher upside than that. So he's a freak. He's got freakish abilities. But I've got a very bad sense and aura around this team throughout this offseason, just how everything's been handled, from their contract negotiations to some of the problems on the roster. Andy, what do you think about the roster? I know you spent quite a bit of time looking at it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I've got to agree with you. I made a comment in a Knife and Spoon segment a few episodes ago, dishing one out to Steve Keiman, Arizona, I think, regarding that trade for Hollywood Brown. Look, they've lost 950 snaps with Christian Kirk, a bunch of snaps on the offensive line. I agree with you, Jack, in the sense that Trey McBride is a good tight end prospect, but I do not agree with you at all that this was a good pick for Arizona, considering the glaring holes they have elsewhere.
I'm with you, Andy.
They have lost.
It's a luxury pick. It's a luxury pick for a team that's
question.
As I said, I really like Trey McBride coming in the draft.
Yeah, man, for sure. And to learn under Zach Ertz is an awesome tutelage. But
they just paid Zach Ertz.
Does that not show the complete and utter kind of delusion that perhaps Keim and Kingsbury have? I mean, it's another weapon for Kyler, right? It's hopefully someone that can come in and get, perhaps you said, Andy, you removed close to 1,000 snaps with Christian Kirk. So anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we'll get into the Christian Kirk deal in a few teams' time when we do the next division. But as I said, Max Garcia is gone from the O-line. Chase Edmonds, running back room, I think it's pretty rough to have ranked them 27, knowing what Kyler Murray can do as a dual threat. And he does make this offense incredibly potent. And
to that point, Andy, on the ground, they had the third most touchdowns in the league last year. They had 23 touchdowns and 2,000 odd yards rushing. James Conner kept fighting the end zone.
Yeah, so to have ranked them 27 blows my mind, to be honest. To answer your question, Jack, can Cliff Kingsbury get them through a whole season without DeAndre Hopkins, Nuke Hopkins for the first 6 weeks under a PED violation? My answer is no. Furthermore, on the defensive side of the ball, you've lost 600 snaps on the interior line, Jordan Phillips, Corey Peters.
Yeah, huge. Close
to 900 snaps from premier pass rusher Chandler Jones. And you've left JJ Watt, who I don't think he'll play 10 games personally. I think he'll be Hall of Famer, but his body's just letting him down. Jordan Hicks at linebacker is a big loss. Robert Alford at cornerback's gone. And they've drafted Myjai Sanders and Cameron Thomas on the edge. Trey McBride, as we said, is a luxury pick. Will Hernandez isn't that much chop at guard. And a tiny little shout out to one of my my favorite former Charger unsungs, tight end Steven Anderson is now a Cardinal. So shame to see you head that way, mate.
Yeah.
But there you go. So to answer, I think this team's a rabble. I think their defense, just run the ball up the middle on them. I think they're in trouble.
Okay, Rabble's interesting. Rabble's interesting because
they've got
they
Buda
do
Baker
this
and big linebackers, but what is it?
Well, let me put a question to you then. Do we think this team misses the playoffs this year? They clearly think they're in the window. They get Hollywood Brown, who, don't forget, he played at Oklahoma with Kyler Murray. The two have this insane connection where they connected for bombs away all this time. So Keim's gone. We've got Nuke Hopkins and Hollywood Brown and two tight ends, and we're going to just run up the scoreboard with our air raid offense. And, our defense can work it out with Vance Joseph and some exotic stuff. Do you think they're good enough to be a playoff team, or are they going to miss the boat?
I think because of the current lay of the land in the NFC, they can scrape in because they can probably afford themselves to score more points than they give up because of their the versatility in their offense. But I think depending on how Trey Lance, and it depends on how Trey Lance does as well for the 49ers. They've obviously, we'll get into that for sure, but I think they can make the playoffs. Yeah, but I still think that I don't know what their defense really is. And they're going to give up some points. And they started 10-1 and then totally shit the bed last year. So what is this team?
I mean, I find it hard to believe that, DVOA has had their defense ranked 6th in the league last year. They were good, I think.
Big fall from grace this year, man.
It has to be. I mean, you're losing. As you said, JJ Watt's is not the guy that plays 90% of your games and is getting 20 sacks anymore. He's just not that. I mean, he's a great leader and stuff, as you said, but is offense going to per DVOA, or we look at even the PFF, but DVOA has them ranked 15th and PFF has them ranked 17th. Are they going to move up to a top 10? Because I have a feeling their defense is going to drop into that 15 to 20 range as well, unless they do something incredible. Listen, if they want to run up the scoreboard and do that, all the power to you, no problems. But from a Chargers perspective, I guess what we're looking at doing is just putting pressure on Kyler Murray. And I don't think the offensive line for the Arizona Cardinals is capable of stopping that. I really don't.
Good luck, Kelvin Beachum and DJ Humphries on Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack.
And you know what? And because I think Bosa is so good at now, because he's so used to chasing quarterbacks. He's so used to he's going to be chasing Russell Wilson, and he's been chasing Patrick Mahomes for the last couple of years. So we know what contain looks like. And on the other side, you've got arguably a Hall of Famer, Khalil Mack, who knows exactly what he needs to do to get to the quarterback. So good luck. Good luck to Kyler Murray. I think we win this game. I think we win this game relatively comfortably. I think without DeAndre Hopkins, that's a huge one.
When do we play them again?
Week 12 at Arizona.
12. Okay. Sorry, I thought we played them earlier in the season than that. That's okay. So if they got DeAndre Hopkins, but who knows with injuries?
Might not have JJ Watt as you thought.
Well, might not have JJ Watt. I think we still win this game. I think we win this game. I think we win this game by 10 to 14 points.
Chargers win. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. I agree too.
Okay.
Lock it in.
Do your homework, Carla. Do your homework, Carla.
How embarrassing. All right, I'll take the next team. We move on to our cross-city rivals, the Los Angeles Rams. And obviously last year's Super Bowl winners, they achieved everything they wanted to achieve. When I think about this iteration of LA, it's kind of all big city, billionaire owner, big stadium, big personality of the head coach, this real big dick energy. And they exude it, and they have a lot of mercenaries. They were prepared to be bold and sign some stars, and it worked for them. But don't let it belie the kind of macho exterior belie the very intelligent underbelly. And before I throw to you, I think it's worth talking about what this team does schematically on both sides of the ball. So with Sean McVay, he obviously learned under Kyle Shanahan for many, many years, and he's managed to take the Shanahan offense, which is renowned for its outside zone running scheme, this wide zone running scheme where they have a lot of 12 personnel, so one running back and two tight ends, and they run a lot outside the tackles, and then off that, there's a lot of play action boot hitting crosses over the middle, and it takes a lot of pressure off your quarterback. McVay did that the first couple of years, and then he decided to basically run the similar concepts, but playing a lot more 11 personnel, so 3 wide receiver sets. And that's where you have guys like Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham and Van Jefferson on the field at the same time. They're still running those stretch plays out to the right, and then they've got really good route runners. And when you upgrade from Goff to Stafford at quarterback, McVay's really good at scheming guys open off the play action pass and then hitting those deep ones with Stafford.
It does. I was just going to say it really helps when you've got a blocking beast of a wide receiver in Cooper Kupp. Play on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's critical. And that's what works in those schemes. You need those guys. It's so important for you to hit that block on the edge to get outside the tackles. The Niners do it with your Kittles and kind of Ayuks, and Kupp does it for the Rams. But then on defense, they're just as ingenious, because when Staley left in 2020, they were the number 1 ranked defense, and they had this kind of exotic team that used a lot of disguise. And then Raheem Morris did a great job taking over from Brandon Staley. I mean, he's had head coach experience in the league. He runs a similar kind of cover 2 based defense. But then last year, they were the most unique defense in the NFL in terms of pre and post snap disguise with their safeties. So credit where it's due. They are at the kind of vanguard of schematics in the NFL. And if you match good coaching and scheme with great players, that's when you win the Super Bowl. You can't do it with only one of those two. So I want to just open to you first, Jack, about, I mean, you've now become quite familiar with Brandon Staley's philosophy. How do you see a contrast kind of between Sean McVay, who he learned from, and Brandon Staley, kind of the pupil who's now the coach of his own team?
That's a really good question, and something that I actually vacillate and think about over quite a lot. I find myself with the Rams, I want to hate them, but I can't. I find I think Staley, I find a lot more humble than McVay. Staley has that same energy, but he does it, I feel, in a less intense, big dick energy way. He's a lot more about family. He has those familial values that he always likes to bring to the organization. So it's a softer...
Jack, are you saying Ukrainian supermodels are not familial?
Well, I know that Sean McVay did say, hey, you know what? I might retire and start a family. So Sean McVay is the Ukrainian supermodel. He's the guy on NFL documentaries that gets his shirt off and swims in the pool and yet shows all that kind of stuff off. But he has this incredible, incredible brain that when you see him at a press conference, you just can't help but love when a reporter asks him a question and he goes, well, and he just reels off all these statistics. He's got this picture perfect memory. And I go, that's really cool. And he must do something behind the scenes that we don't necessarily see, the connection that he has with his players. I mean, you've brought Jalen Ramsey into being one of the top tier cornerbacks. Perhaps he's fallen from grace, or he's slowly falling from grace now. And utilizing, it's one thing to have great players, but the really, really good operators make great players into Super Bowl winners. And as much as Aaron Donald is, I think, listeners of this podcast, and Andy and Alistair, you know me very well. I love Aaron Donald. I think he is going to be the best defensive player and most disruptive player on defense to ever play the game. It's another thing to bring greatness out of those already great players. So in contrast, I much prefer Staley as a teacher. He's kind of a bit more like me, though I really, really like Sean McVay. Good question. I think both.
How's the humble brag there? Staley is a little bit like me. No.
When I
see what you mean. I know what you mean.
I think I'd probably connect with him a little more than I would a Sean McVay.
Yes.
But I'm sure Sean McVay would be able to twist and turn my psyche to make me absolutely adore him as well. So
yeah. All right, I'm going to flip now to 2022 in the off season that the teams just had. Andy, now's where I'll throw to you. So, what has stood out to you from the off season moves that the Rams have made, whether it be free agency or trade or the draft? Any particular changes that stand out to you?
Not quite a fire sale, but sort of close to it with a few blaring contracts. I mean, Von Miller was only a short stay, kind of always coming in. They've got rid of injury-prone Robert Woods, or coming off serious injury last year. Whitworth's retired, so a bit of offensive losses. Sonny Michel as well, and Austin Corbett as well at the guard. They don't care for draft picks, and you really can't fault Les Snead's kind of philosophy as to how they replace their players. They bring back Troy Hill, cornerback. They signed Bobby Wagner and Allen Robinson. I was a bit surprised, actually, most of all, which is a bit weird, but to see Johnny Hecker go, I don't quite know the circumstances. I think they just cut him.
He didn't have a very good year. Fans were complaining about him.
Oh, well, if that's reason to cut someone, then golly.
The Chargers wouldn't have a team.
Yeah. Just on Allen Robinson.
You've almost
just on
unstuck
Allen
me.
Robinson, Andy. Sorry, go, mate.
No, I was just going to say you've almost unstuck me with that one.
He's apparently lighting it up, and he's a guy I think could be absolute superstar in that offense.
Yeah.
He had one down year, but every other year of his career has been a freak.
He's been at Chicago. Like, come on.
Jacksonville as well.
Yeah, who's he had throwing to him? Nobody.
Yeah.
Blake Bortles.
Yeah, Bortles and Dalton.
Yeah,
God.
there's so much to like about this this offense, and I'll thank the Rams for the Chargers pickups. Sebastian Joseph Day, first and foremost, that's a very exciting signing, and I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Troy Reader. So cheers for those ones. But you look, they're my NFC lock. I think it's pretty hard to see them, just the way they go about it, and they're good on both sides of the ball, good in special teams. They're a recipe for success. They're a good team, man.
I've got something. I've got, because we love to make predictions on this podcast, because I'm gonna, when I get the chance to hit Jacksonville, I'm gonna wax lyrical about my prediction being correct. So I should. Okay, looking at the draft picks that the Rams have picked up this year, where's Cooper Kupp? So who's it going to be? Who's going to be the Cooper Kupp that they pick up? Because history states that, yes, you give away your first. The Rams are giving away their first and seconds like anything. Where are they going to hit? Who's it going to be that all of a sudden we're going to be talking about this time next year and going, holy crap, this guy has just come out of the woodwork and is playing and is balling for them? What say you, Alistair?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a complete stab in the dark, but I think it's kind of worthy.
I'll give it a crack. Well, the only one who's slated to start potentially is Logan Bruss, the guard from Wisconsin. So in the third round, you can hit on a starting guard. It's not, beyond the realms of possibility. And I know Quentin Lake, the safety out of UCLA, had a few fans amongst the kind of draft nerd Twitter kind of group. So they're the two. But I mean, they are in this window right now where they feel like they can win. They can just win for this year and maybe next year. And if they hit on some of these, great. If they don't, I think they'll take their one Super Bowl that they got last year and think anything in addition to that is just surplus. Lucky fans, we hope to join them this year. Andy, do you have anything you want to add before we go to predictions?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, the Chargers face the Rams in Week 17 on Sunday Night Football. It is, of course, at SoFi Stadium, although it's nominally a Chargers home game. I'm going to bring down the mood and suggest that this is a Chargers loss. I have a feeling that, there've just been a few occasions where Staley's come up against maybe a more experienced, intimidating head coach last year, and he tended to lose those games. I'm thinking of the Belichicks and the Zimmers of this world. And I don't know. I just feel like coming up against his old head coach, the team might play a little tight, and the Rams, I've just got this picture of Sean McVay pumping the fist and gyrating his pelvis on the sideline. So I'm going to say that the Rams have their way with the Chargers this time around. Andy?
Yeah, when I just flashed over some notes before I saw, Week 17, Rams at Chargers. Gee, they could already have the division locked up. Maybe they.
Oh, that's what I was thinking too.
And then I've gone, hang on a minute. There's actually 18 games in the season now, and I think you're right. I do think we take an L in this game. To think that we could win because they rest some stars is not really the mindset I like to be in. But I'm pretty realistic with these sort of things. I think with my head, not my heart. And I think we take a W here at SoFi, which makes our position ranking heading into the playoffs a little sticky. Jack?
I have a bit of a negative mindset around this game as well. However, I think that we win this, and we win it purely because I think Sean McVay, the team is experienced, and I like you, Andy, was going, it's later in the season. Perhaps they could not. Perhaps the Rams might be resting some stars. They might have the division locked up. They might be thinking about their division around playoffs and things like that. I think we do take a win because, and this is going to sound bad, because we're going to have more to play for in this game coming up. I think we're going to be borderline in that playoff window. So I don't think we're necessarily clinching our division. I think it's going to be very, very tight. And I think we will take the win, hopefully to cement a wild card spot. That's my thinking. So it's a positive, but also I think it's a little bit of a negative because I think winning our division this year is going to be very difficult. So that's what I predict.
Nice, Jack. Well, I like the optimism. I think you're actually pretty fairly realistic with the. It's not going to be as many W's. Kind of, we're not going to win every game, sort of thing. All right. Well, if there's nothing more on the Rams, I'm going to move right along to the Seattle Seahawks. 2021 saw them go 5-12. They lost Russell Wilson for a month, and then for the rest of his career. We play them in.
You've been prepping that one all week, haven't you?
No, actually, that just like an ace out of my sleeve.
That's crisp.
Yeah, far crisper than his social media. I'll double down.
That's right.
Yeah, we play them week 7, the week before our bye. They had a bit of a brutal campaign in 2021, as I said. Never seemed to get a rhythm going. Wilson hurt his hand, and it was a bit sort of too little, too late. There were injuries everywhere. On the defense, we see Ken Norton, the defensive coordinator, leave. They got rid of DJ Reed, Akello Witherspoon in the cornerback room of note. Bobby Wagner, as we said, just moved off to the Rams.
Yeah.
Offensively, they've traded out Russell Wilson. Dwayne Brown's gone. Brandon Shell, 2 tackles. Center, Ethan Pokic. Tight end, Gerald Everett heads to the Chargers. Internally, as far as additions go on the defense to replace Ken Norton, they've internally promoted Clint Hurt. He was formerly Seattle's assistant head coach and defensive line coach. They've also brought in from Chicago associate head coach and defensive kind of overseer Sean Desai, which I think is probably going to be quite an interesting little story how that pans out, considering Pete Carroll's 1,000 years old and has been chewing the same piece of gum since 1996.
He's
they
also
bring in
Staley's buddy, Sean Desai. They're mates.
Yeah, cool. We'll probably spend a bit of time together in Chicago. They get Shelby Harris and Noah Fant through the trade with for Wilson. Not that many other notable kind of additions. Drew Lock's their quarterback. Sorry, he was part of the trade as well. He's forgettable. Uchenna Nwosu, obviously former Charger on the edge, has signed with the Seahawks as well. Look, as I said, I think the defensive kind of overseeing is going to be the most interesting. Pete Carroll's been running his base 3-4, kind of overseeing that when he's had Gus Bradley in there during the Legion of Boom. And now Sean Desai comes in. He runs sort of a 3-4 split safety, a lot of quarters defense. He spent some time, obviously, in Chicago with Fangio and Chuck Pagano. Yeah, look, I think even though they've internally promoted Clint Hurt, he's gone from an assistant head coach just to sort of the defensive coordinator. And I use sort of bunny ears quotations for that because I think Sean Desai is probably the guy that's more likely to take over from Pete Carroll. So I think that's kind of, for me, the story of there's not too much to look forward to on the field. You've got kind of a wasted top receiving wide receiver duo, Metcalf and Lockett. Another big story another big thing to look out for is going to be Kenneth Walker III, the 2021 Doak Walker Award winner for the best college running back of the year. Obviously, Chris Carson's retired from that neck injury, and how many games is Rashad Penny going to play? Well, we'll sort of see about that. Look, I mean, you know what? I'm gonna ask it, Jack. Considering the outlook for this team isn't great, and Pete Carroll's quite a stubborn guy, do you see any disharmony potentially heading to a head coach firing in Seattle this year?
I have this theory that Pete Carroll is actually Roy Scheider. And if you don't know who Roy Scheider is, if you think of Jaws, he's the main character in Jaws. And I just think they're sort of, they look alike.
That's so good.
And so when I think of Seattle, I think of Jaws and I think of Roy Scheider and I think of Pete Carroll being Roy Scheider. Russell Wilson's been eaten by the shark. Chris Carson has clearly been eaten by the shark. I have a feeling this team is going to be eventually eaten by a shark. I think they've got some really good pieces. I think they're sort of future proofing. I don't know if DK Metcalf is going to have even half the year that he had last year, because I don't think Geno Smith or Drew Lock can actually get him the ball.
Well, the problem with this shark is it's got lockjaw, and we've seen a lot of Drew Lock, and he's fucking hopeless.
And that's the thing, right? So we know Drew Lock very well. The shark might eat Drew Lock. I think that Pete Carroll might be setting up maybe not a firing, because I think what he's done for that team and what he's done for that city and his relationship with Schneider, which is not sometimes the best. I think they'll figure something out where he walks away into the sunset with some decent pieces on both the offensive and defensive side. So yeah, I don't think the outlook for this team is particularly good, but given who Pete Carroll is and his sort of, his time at USC and how much of a football guy he is, I don't think a firing is in line with this year.
No, because it's like he's won the power struggle in a sense. I mean,
yeah, he has.
Wilson's gone, and they've committed to Pete Carroll's approach with a new era. They're completely changing their defense. It's a new scheme. It's a new style of defense. They were used to playing a lot of cover 3, but now they're going to play a lot of quarters, as Andy said. As we've seen, that first year in a new defense can really take a while for the team to gel and learn what they're doing. So I expect a defense that already wasn't very good to struggle quite a bit this year. The offense has some weapons, but not necessarily a quarterback to get the ball to them. I really can't believe they're going into the season with either Drew Lock or Geno Smith. I'd probably feel relatively different about this team if they pulled a trade for a Jimmy G, something that showed, or had they gone with Baker Mayfield. It might not have made them any kind of a contender or anything like that, but they may have been able to fight for an NFC wildcard spot, or at least have more than that 5, 6, or 7 wins, which I think they're stuck right in that area with, if they truly head into the season with Lock or Geno under center. All I'll say positive about this team is I thought they had a nice draft. As Andy said,
I agree with that. Yeah,
Kenny
Charles
Walker,
Cross, I think, is good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boye Mafe off the edge, and Abraham Lucas is a kind of plug and play right tackle potentially, who they got at a reasonably nice position in the draft. But they're a team who really want to run the ball, and they've got Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas who both excel in pass protection more than in run blocking. So there's just something there that maybe isn't working right for me.
That was a big point. That was big knocks on both of those guys in terms of their coming out of college. Charles Cross played in air raid in Mississippi State, and Lucas's massive knock was inferior footwork and being able to sort of move out into space. So, it's interesting. I mean, just to touch on what you said in terms of Pete Carroll kind of won the power battle. If he's convinced the franchise that these quarterbacks are okay and enough, and they win 4 games, I mean, they've got an awful division to play in. They've got the AFC West to play against. I think they play the Jets, Detroit, Atlanta. Off the top of my head, someone else not great. But I only really the Giants and the Panthers.
We've got McVay with us on the podcast, just the savant.
They're potential winnable games. The NFC West's a bit weird with, there's always one team that's crap that beats a good team, and but I only really see the Falcons being the almost sure, the closest thing to a sure thing for them this year. Everything else is going to be a battle, and Lock sucks. So,
but it's set up right. I mean, if Carroll has won that power battle and he's not going to ride off into the sunset anytime soon, I think it's on the horizon. They've got a war chest of picks to go over the next number of years, and so is it do you use those to trade for a quarterback next year when you've got a little more development from your draft this year? You know what you're doing with. I mean, geez, who wouldn't want to throw to DK Metcalf? Who wouldn't want to throw to Tyler Lockett? And I think Noah Fant, we haven't touched on him, but I have always liked Noah Fant. I thought he's quite a handy player at Denver. He was tossed into the trade there too. So I mean, you've still got Jamal Adams at strong safety. There are building blocks there. And if it's a 2-year thing where, you know what, we will go with Geno Smith and Drew Lock, get some time into these young guys. We've said to DK Metcalf, we'll give you a big contract, mate. But just stick with us for 3 or 4 years. We're going to get you to someone. We're going to get you someone to throw the ball to. We're going to get you. We're going to get you someone to throw the ball to you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe Pete Carroll is building towards taking that.
73 years old or something though. Like, fuck.
And that shark's coming. Nom, 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 nom.
Predictions.
Well, yes, I'm on first glance of our schedule this year, I penciled this one and the Falcons in immediately. So I'll stick by that. I think it's going to get ugly.
Not for us.
For Seattle. Yeah. For the Seahawks. So, win for the Chargers.
Yep. I actually think it might be a ugly game. I have a feeling it might be a bit of an ugly game.
Low standards kind of stuff.
Yeah, low standards in the trenches, kind of really shitty, I think. Pete Carroll always has some kind of weird psychological thing, but I think it's a win. I just don't think it'll be particularly fun to watch.
Yeah, real play down to their level kind of areas. And it is in week 7, and it's the last game before the Chargers bye at SoFi Stadium. I predict also that it will be a win for the Chargers.
At least it's not in the rain in Seattle. So,
yes,
take that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Jack, the San Francisco 49ers to round out the NFC West.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some big noise out of San Fran last couple of days. Obviously, Deebo Samuel has signed a massive contract. And you know what? Good on him. I think he's up there with one of... He's one of the... Actually, as a pure fan, just watching it, he is super exciting whenever he touches the ball. The contract details of that, is he playing more of a wide receiver than he is running back? What's the go there? Who knows? I'm glad he's still on this team because I think Kyle Shanahan uses him really well. I was a bit worried that he might go to a team that doesn't use him as well and therefore won't be as exciting. So good on John Lynch for getting that deal done. Though I do think that kind of perhaps means that Jimmy Garoppolo is very much on the market. I'm not sure how much money is left in there. I haven't done the over-the-cap numbers for them, but that's the quarterback battle. Is it going to be Jimmy G or Trey Lance? All signs at the moment are pointing to Trey Lance starting. Personally, I don't think I've seen enough from Trey Lance to, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, to say, is he taking this team to the playoffs? Jimmy G can take a team to a playoffs. He just does 1 or 2 things per game that are absolute coach and organization killers. Some of those interceptions that he throws when he really shouldn't as an experienced quarterback, absolutely, I think have really haunted this team for a number of years. So perhaps it's a bit of a legacy thing with Jimmy G. It's time to get him out of the building. He's done what he needs to do. And let's see what happens with Trey Lance. The biggest offseason loss, I think, for the organization is Mike McDaniel. I've seen enough of that guy down in Miami to just go, that guy's just... He's cool, man. I think when you talk, Alistair, when you talk about the difference between Staley and Mike McDaniel, McVay, I think Mike McDaniel fits right in between them. He's switched on, really, really switched on. He's got that really cool vibe where Staley can be maybe a little bit lame. I reckon Mike McDaniel will do really well down there, but we might touch on that on a later podcast. So is the combination of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, you've got Chris Forster and Bobby, is it Slovic or Slowick? I think, is that how you pronounce that name?
Yeah, whatever you want, mate.
Slovic.
Not listening.
Come in to...
not listening.
Come in to replace Mike McDaniel at the OC position. We know Kyle Shanahan has his fingers all over that offense and the way that they run the ball. So I don't think losing McDaniel perhaps might be as impactful as we see on the field. I think organizationally it might have more of an impact.
But I say though, Jack, you're about to go.
Hold on.
All right.
But
unleash.
The one thing we've got to remember, and the biggest, the most important part of the 49ers organization is the assistant head coach and the running back room is our man, Anthony Lynn. He's there. He's got a job. Good on him. Well done. Good on you, sir. Good to see you there. Alistair, what say you?
That's about as disingenuous a rev up as I reckon I've ever heard. But we wish him the best.
Halfway through that was good.
I was going to say on McDaniel to piggyback off what you were saying. Do you know this is the first time that Shanahan's been without McDaniel since 2010?
Oh, I did not know that. Wow. Okay.
They have followed each other. He's followed him everywhere, from Washington to Atlanta without Matt Ryan, great season, to the Niners. He's the assistant he wanted to let go the least. He's taken, trying to prevent him getting head coaching roles. And they say he really coordinated that famous kind of running game that they're renowned for.
All right.
So we will see. It does seem like Shanahan has the Midas touch. He calls the plays and has an outstanding feel for when to pull the levers. But they're just a great offense. I mean, they were first in the league in net yards per attempt last year. So that's everywhere Shanahan goes, that happens. Matt Ryan was about 9 yards per attempt in that MVP season, 2017.
Yeah,
and even with Jimmy G, they're number one in net yards per attempt. They like to run the ball a lot, the fifth most rushing attempts in the league last year. I want to give some praise to D'Amico Ryans, who had to take over Robert Saleh's role, which couldn't have been too easy, but I thought he did an incredible job last season. They play a lot of cover 4 under D'Amico Ryans, and it's kind of the exact profile that you want to see. So they were 29th in the league for blitz percentage. So they barely ever blitz, but they had the 6th most sacks. So they just like to rush with 4, and they find a way to get home without having to blitz.
I mean, it helps with the cattle that they've got on that defensive line and what they've had for a number of years. But anyway, that's by the by.
Yeah, well, it might speak to the twists and the stunts and the games up front that he's maybe calling, rather than your Jonathan Gannons out in Philly, who just kind of don't do much of interest. So credit to D'Amico Ryans. Trey Lance is obviously the big question for this team. Everyone knew coming out that he might take a while because he only had 19 starts as a college quarterback. But in those 19 starts, he had 30 touchdowns and 1 interception. So he's very toolsy, right? He's an incredible athlete. So the hope for him is obviously that he's had that year to sit now, and whether they actually want him to start this year or there's some organizational imperative that he must start. Either way, we're going to find out. What does this team look like with a different, more athletic type of quarterback under center? And all the rumors are that John Lynch wanted Trey Lance. Shanahan actually wanted Mac Jones, and that kind of John Lynch won out on that. It's interesting.
Hey, Alistair, you know who was also really good in college? Ryan Leaf.
Yeah. Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah.
It's true.
Johnny Football. So
yes.
But this, I mean, of course, we can look at quarterbacks in there.
And he played for a small school, career. Jack, to your point, North Dakota State, didn't play a lot of top competition. They fell in love with his skill set.
I mean, Mac Jones makes sense because he's more of a Jimmy G than Trey Lance. And if you're looking for that, we're looking for that pocket passer that if, as you said, Shanahan turns, Jimmy, who was it? Matt Ryan was averaging, 9 yards per pass attempt. You need that distributor. And arguably Matt Jones fixed that. Trey Lance to me seems like more of the rushing
Kaepernick.
Your Kaepernick, your big bodied rusher, big arm, strong arm. So fascinating, really fascinating.
Yeah, I think that actually kind of adds to the run game, having the dual threat. He's more of a foot demon than Jimmy G could ever be. So when you're running that wide zone, you play a lot of play action. It's actually a scheme that makes the passing game easier for the quarterback. So if you've got concerns about, it's like why Jimmy G sort of succeeded to a degree, made it to make it to the Super. Yeah, he made it to the Super Bowl. Because it's designed to make it easier for you. You've got a guy that can take the top off. You've got a lot of crossing in intermediate routes. You've got an incredible, awesome wide zone running scheme. I actually think that adding Trey Lance, if he's comes good, I think it's a good scheme for him to develop into and to be able to utilize his good attributes.
I think one of the safest bets that I could put in last year was Jimmy G over rushing yards. I think it was always about 2.5 or 3.5 a game. You always whack that in there. He'd always hover around that 5 or 6. And I think that was one of the safest bets. So you're right, Andy. I think what's, physically Trey Lance has it all. It's what you want. It's your Kaepernick, but does he have it upstairs? That's the question. And I can't remember seeing that.
It's not much of a sample space for him, is it? 19 games.
The other one I wanted to touch on is that I actually really like Drake Jackson coming out of USC. He goes on to a very, very strong defensive line with Armstead, Kinlaw, and obviously our much beloved Bosa brother Nick. Yeah, so I'm really, and Samson Ebukam is a really good. I think is really good depth there. Fred Warner, we know, but there is. Listeners of the podcast, I love a good name. And I think their starting strong safety, or could be their starting strong safety, Talanoa Hufanga. I think great name. I have no idea if he's going to be.
Just makes you feel good to say it.
But what a great name.
Starting last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was.
Tidy.
I did have another couple of questions if I wanted to throw it out, or we could sort of move on. It depends.
Go away, mate. Quick fire.
The other one, I guess, to throw it out, I'll go to you, Andy. Is Deebo Samuel worth it?
Oh, I'm really torn. Obviously, he's an incredible athlete. He's produced. But I don't like this attitude of, but I don't want to do something that you want me to do. I don't want to use part of my skill set. I don't like that attitude. Ultimately, that doesn't wash out in the deal. He gets paid $73.5 million over 3 years. Fuck, that's a lot of money. 58.1 guaranteed. He's worth it if they win a Super Bowl.
Oh yeah. I agree. As I said, I have a soft spot for Deebo. Alistair. Oh, sorry, Andy.
Nah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I won't put my foot in it.
Alistair, I'll give you some DVOAs, and obviously they're the ranking of San Francisco, and you can either go, they'll move forward, they'll go up the rankings, they'll stay where they are, or they'll drop. So I just wanted to get your quick fire thinking on these. So offense sitting at 5th.
Down.
Defense sitting at 7th per DVOA.
Down.
Special teams 26th in the league.
Pretty safe to say up.
And overall DVOA 6th in the league.
Down.
Ooh, okay. So you're kind of thinking that they're going to finish 3rd or 4th in the NFC West then?
I think they're a good team. I don't have, I'm not willing to kind of put myself out there for Trey Lance. I just haven't seen it yet. It is a risky kind of move. I very much trust the coaching staff. I do feel like on defense, they lost a little bit. Arden Key had a good year for them. DJ Jones, good against the run.
DJ Jones, yeah.
And look, I think they'll be thereabouts. Don't get me wrong. They could feature deep in the playoffs, but if you're asking me to bet, they're pretty high. They're pretty high rankings from last season. I think they'll slightly come back to the pack. Regression to the mean, as the analytics buffs like to say.
Okay. Are we winning this? Are we losing this? Alistair?
We face them in week 10 in San Francisco on Sunday Night Football, and we're going to lose this game.
Oh,
and we're going to lose this game because I'm worried about our linebackers. Probably the hardest part about the Shanahan scheme is the strain they put on your linebackers and your safeties, especially more if you run a single high defensive look, but definitely the linebackers. You cannot bite on that boot action, and it's possibly the weakest part of our team. I just don't love it. I just don't love the fit and the matchup. So I'm going to go with the Niners.
So you're saying that we get our Levi's pulled down and spanked on the bottom?
Your words, not mine.
Even though it's not called Levi Stadium anymore. Anyway, Andy, what do you reckon?
I'm going to take a W here. I just think we'll be too good for the 49ers away from home. I have the faith in this one.
Yep.
And I actually agreed with you on the drop in offensive and defensive DVOA, and overall, I do think they're going to sort of regress a little bit back, potentially even finish 3rd in their division.
Thanks, mate.
There you go. I think we take a win in this one. I look at George Kittle. I look at Trent Williams. I look at the injury history of Nick Bosa now. A bit unfair maybe because he's only had 1 year. I look at the injury history of Deebo Samuel. he's available but can get injured. So I reckon we take the W in this one. I think it'll be a tight game, but it will come down to quarterback play. And honestly, who do you want? Trey Lance, Jimmy G, or do you want the GOAT? And let's all say that we want Herbie fully loaded.
The GOAT. Awesome. Alrighty. That wraps up the NFC West. Let's jump straight into the AFC South. So, kicking us off the AFC South with the Indianapolis Colts. Alistair Lloyd.
Thank you, Andy. So last season, the Indianapolis Colts started like a house on fire, really got the fan base excited, and then finished with one of the all-time clunkers. And I still have not been able to catch the in-season Hard Knocks. I need to find a way to watch that to see the way they went out with a really soft fart against the Jacksonville Jaguars, losing 26-11 with everything on the line, miss out on playoffs. It was just a really diabolical finish.
It's almost like a soft, wet fart as well.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah.
It was just terrible.
Dax kind of fart. It's full shit, if you ask me.
However, they've managed to wash and clean their undies because they offloaded Carson Wentz. And I've also never seen an owner come out and just slag off the quarterback the way Jim Irsay did. That was absurd. So even though Wentz, he's prepared to kind of voice his opinion, and his kind of box score stats are misleading. Wentz had 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions last year. On paper, that sounds like
really?
Yes, really.
Jeez, I wouldn't believe that if you told me.
I know.
Wow.
But it was the way, like, he takes a lot of sacks and there are some forced fumbles in there. And it's kind of the moments when he has stinkers that really hurt him down the stretch. And he's got this, again, a bit of a strange leadership style. What I want to talk about with the Colts is the obvious, which is their move at quarterback to sign the 37-year-old version of Matt Ryan. They trade him with 2 years left on his deal for a third-round pick, and his salary, he's due $18.7 million this year, and then $35 million next season. So they've got him for 2 years. Last year with Atlanta, he had his lowest passing yardage since 2010. So he came in under 4,000 yards just. He had 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. PFF thought his grading was 17th out of the 37 quarterbacks they graded, so about middle of the pack in a fairly bad situation, I should say. But his best graded games are against teams like Washington and the Jets and the Lions. So my question to you is, what should Colts fans reasonably expect from this version of Matt Ryan? Can he make the Colts a deep playoff contender, Jack?
Oh, God. Unfortunately, his situation in Atlanta last year was like the Eureka Stockade and Layla fighting there, losing an arm and still trying to lead a bunch of troops against the bloody Redcoats. Poor guy. I felt really sorry for him. I have a really soft spot for Matt Ryan. I think a 37-year-old Matt Ryan is better than an anytime Carson Wentz. I think Matt Ryan will elevate the offense. I think he's a great leader. He speaks really well. I think he's going to get along really well with Frank Reich. Frank Reich has a great presence. He's one of my favorite people to listen to. Alistair, I know he's one of yours as well. I'm not a huge fan of Gus Bradley, not from the Chargers. I'm not sure if his defensive scheme, that 3 high defensive scheme, is necessarily getting it done in the league and what we see in offenses today. But I think, listen, they finished 9-8 and second in the AFC South. I think Matt Ryan could push them to 11 wins. I really could. And you've got Nick Foles there. I like him. I like it. I do. Good Matt Ryan. I hope. Phillip Rivers went to Indianapolis. Soft spot for them. Always had a bit of a soft spot. What say you, Andy?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I've always had an agreeable soft spot for Matt Ryan, but he's 37 years old, and the most exciting weapon you've got, aside from arguably the best back in the league, Jonathan Taylor, is the wideout drafted from Cincy, Alec Pierce. Sure, like your Michael Pittmans and Mo Coxes can make plays, but you've got a new starting left tackle, the Austrian Bernard Reimann.
Ryman.
Eric Fisher's gone. What's reasonable to expect as a Colts fan?
Yeah, Paris Campbell can't stay healthy.
Nah, man. And on a defense where you're now, as you said, instituting cover 3, Gus Bradley system, your best player is a linebacker on defense. You've got Stephon Gilmore, who's got an injury history. Brennan Faison, God, give me a spell. I'm really concerned, but I think that's the level. I think that this division is the top are gonna come down, and the bottom. Well, one of the bottom might go up a little bit. So I think it's going to equal out a little bit. I think you're off your block if you're a Colts fan and you think a deep playoff run is on the cards here. I just get off the pipe. I think you just I don't think it with the loadedness of the AFC. Maybe you get lucky and win a wild card round.
And I think, Andy, what's kept them up there so much is that when Eberflus was in town, the defense just played really tough. Ninth in the league last year for points conceded. They had the second most turnovers generated in the league, and they had the third least missed tackles. He's just a coach who really drilled that defense, and they all loved him and played for him. And now
let Darius Leonard play. Just let him play. The guy's a fucking turnover machine.
Right. And now new scheme, Gus Bradley, who played cover 6 he played cover 3 at a league high 61% of downs last season. The most by a mile. The next highest was 46% of downs. So he's in a world of his own in terms of the 3 deep shell. It's quite a conservative way to play defense, and I just wonder if they're going to maybe struggle more than Colts fans think on that side of the ball.
I think, to take a page out of Bucky and Jeremiah's, listen, Matt Ryan's a truck. He's definitely not a trailer. And you can say that Carson Wentz is a trailer. Carson Wentz just doesn't exude, as you said, the numbers. Like, that's why I said there's a bit of cognitive dissonance. I'm going, hold on. Wentz has thrown 20 touchdowns, but only 7. Hold on. But when you watch him, it's just panic, turnover, panic, yards for loss.
Are they even going to ask him to be a truck in this system, Jack? They might not even need him to be a truck. It might be Jonathan Taylor pushing for 2,000 yards in a season kind of areas.
Well, I think he can be a truck in different ways. So Matt Ryan brings the experience. Matt Ryan brings the MVP. Matt Ryan brings the calm head under center. Matt Ryan is the guy that when the game is on the line, he knows what to do. He knows how to hurry it up. He knows how to slow it down. Carson Wentz, unfortunately, doesn't know how to do that. And I think when Jonathan Taylor's got someone under center that can actually read and perhaps make adjustments on the fly to maximize his skill set. And don't forget, you've still got Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly sitting there. So, you've still got some of the best big boys in the league, arguably the best big boy in the league in Quentin Nelson. So, a deep player front, no, but I think they'll be frisky. Frisky.
All right. Result predictions. Oh, also, I want to say I think Kwity Paye might be a making the leap candidate on defense. Had a very good rookie season.
I hope so. I hope so because I've invested in a couple of his NFTs. So hopefully it does, and they increase in price.
Yes, baby. All right. Chargers play the Colts. Week 16, Monday Night Football, and I'm back on the winning train now. I think the Chargers win this game. Very important time of the year and big time game. It is in Indianapolis at it might be called Lucas Oil Stadium.
Lucas Oil.
In a dome. We're used to playing in that kind of environment. I think we'll be okay. I'm going to tip the Chargers to win this one. What about you, Andy?
Yeah, I'm tipping us to win this one as well.
I like
Jack?
Yep, I agree. The last time we saw a Chargers quarterback play in a dome such as this was a very, very fun day. So, I reckon we win this. But I also think it's going to be a real test to our defensive line to keep Jonathan Taylor under 100 yards. Yep. That's going to be a great litmus test.
Well said.
Good call. Right. Well, moving right along to the Tennessee Titans. I'll take over this one. We've seen, a lot of news surrounding the Titans, especially on draft day. Let's take a look. Last year, they lost in the divisional playoff round in a very forgettable moment for Ryan Tannehill to the eventual playoff losers, the Cincinnati Bengals. Key departures, 12-5 on the season. Considering the injury to Derrick Henry, I think that's a pretty good result. They won a few close ones that you probably didn't expect them to win. But key departures on that offense are damning. AJ Brown, Julio Jones, Chester Rogers to a lesser degree, but that's almost 1,500 snaps at wide receiver. Then you've got Anthony Frisker, Michael Pruitt, almost 900 snaps at tight end, gone. Roger Saffold, David Quessenberry, that's 850 and close to 1,200 snaps respectively out the door. On defense, Jack Rabbit Jenkins is gone. Jayon Brown, Rashawn Evans, the linebackers, and Dane Cruikshank was actually quite a handy safety. They bring in Robert Woods off a serious injury last year. Austin Hooper, I don't mind the signing. Jamarco Jones, Zach Cunningham is a run defense beast, but pretty rubbish in coverage as a linebacker. And you get Caleb Farley back.
You hope.
Yeah, hope. You do. Their draft was also a bit interesting for me. Obviously, taking a wide receiver when you trade out AJ Brown in the first round sort of made sense. I don't know if Treylon Burks is an apt replacement, but you can only give him a chance. Then they draft Kyle Phillips, the other wide receiver. Hassan Haskins, I don't mind at running back, considering Derrick Henry's coming off an injury. He's 29. Then it sort of surprised me a little bit that they drafted Malik Willis in the third round, quarterback. So that's going to be an interesting little thing to watch. I like Roger McCreary, the cornerback, and Chiga Okonkwo, the tight end. Could be quite handy, but it's almost like a complete offensive rebuild, really. Look, we discovered that Tannehill is quite flawed in that loss. In-house drama surrounding AJ Brown. But Coach Vrabel's coming off Coach of the Year. He runs that attacking 3-4 Belichickian style of defense. It's the second year for his disciple Shane Bowen at defensive coordinator, and second year for Todd Downing, another Shanahan wide zone scheme operator. Not quite Arthur Smith, and you could sort of see a bit of a downgrade in the offense after Arthur Smith headed to Atlanta. But obviously had a pretty bad run with availabilities with, Henry going out. Julio Jones was hardly available. Look, like I said, I see a bit of a drop-off, especially on offense on this team. As far as defense goes, Vrabel does some cool stuff. He stunts really well, runs. Yep. It looks like a more traditional sort of 3-4 front, but his defensive ends are more bigger bodied, sort of more 3-4 DTs. Mixes in his blitzes really well. But look, I guess, Jack, what do you sort of see as the ceiling for this Titans team this year?
You're right about Vrabel. Vrabel's probably one of some of my more favorite head coaches to watch and listen to. Yeah, I really like him, and I love it. The way that he beat the Patriots in that.
Oh yeah.
I will always remember that with sheer bliss. And
the Derrick Henry fake pass for the touchdown.
Amazing. And I mean, I will always respect him for that. So he's one of my favorites. So listen, I think they're going to be around the mark again. We do lose, Brown and things, and Tannehill is flawed. I think we've always known that. But I still look at the defense and I go, Jeffrey Simmons is one of my favorite players to watch too.
Oh yeah,
I love Kevin Byard there at free safety. He's just a jet around the field. Vrabel does really well with what he's got. Ryan Tannehill never really was meant to be the guy because you've got an absolute predator at running back in Derrick Henry. So I think hopefully they can get back to more of what Vrabel wants, which is Tannehill throwing the ball less. Tannehill play action pass.
He's really good at that. To be fair,
he's fantastic.
Awesome at play action.
Yep.
So, but I mean, realistically, when you don't have Derrick Henry in the backfield, your play action goes to absolute poo. So, listen, I think they're going to be around the mark again. I think they're always going to be a difficult team to play against. Tennessee is a really, really, there's a great atmosphere in the Music City. So, I think they're going to be around the mark. And just a shout out, one of my favorite tackles in the draft to go a little later was Dylan Redunce. So he's going to learn off Taylor Lewan there. And Taylor Lewan's always a fun interview. Can a little bit volatile sometimes when he's playing, can give away a few penalties and things. But what say you, Alistair?
Titans fans rightfully get pissed off about how down the national media are about them. They were the number one seed in the AFC last year, and they don't seemingly get much respect. Their record always belies their grades on PFF and the way they're spoken about. And there is a skill, I'm finding out as a Collingwood supporter, there is a skill in just in winning and having a winning mentality and culture. And the Titans, through whether it be endeavor, hard work, training, through particular in-game scenarios, find a way to win quite well. I was concerned about that playoff game because I went back and watched it against the Bengals, and Tannehill, he had one of his worst starts I can recall seeing. From his very first pass of the game being a pick to his very last pass of the game being a pick. When they had the ball, 50 seconds
to win
left,
the game,
throws the pick at midfield, and then they get in field goal range and McPherson kicks it from 50 odd. He came up short and small in a big moment, but don't discount how Derrick Henry was rushed back to play that game, and they tried to ride him, but he just was not the same guy. Yeah. And the nature of his injury, the foot injury, I think he'll actually be okay. The reports are that type of injury is quite not isolated. Not Liz Frank.
Okay. That's bad.
And as long as they can lean on that running game, and they've drafted Hassana Haskins, as Andy said, I see this team being in that same area. Unfortunately, I think other teams around them, like the Chargers, will get better. So they probably can't expect to be the number one seed again. But I actually sneaky love this defense. Their defense is very fun. Like you said, you've got Jeffrey Simmons, Caleb Farley, if he can stay healthy, would be very exciting to see back there. You've got Bayard, Hooker, Elijah Molden had a great rookie year in the slot. They decided to pay all this money to Harold Landry, who, even though people say maybe he's not worth it, if you watch that game against the Bengals, he was everywhere flying off the edge. So I like this team. I like the way they're constructed, and I like the way they're coached. So I think they will be thereabouts again. But I also think the Chargers will beat them. And that's my result prediction.
Just jumping right in. He's sick of talking on the Titans. He just
unless there's anything else to say. Jack, did you want to say something?
For me, I think, listen, you can criticize Ryan Tannehill, but I don't think Ryan Tannehill has ever tried to be anything that other than Ryan Tannehill. So yeah, we can question him for throwing those picks and things, but ultimately he's, I think the whole idea is to have Ryan Tannehill and you've got perhaps a Hall of Fame running back.
So, well, Jack, on that point, we haven't actually discussed the fact that they drafted Malik Willis much. So Tannehill, there's a potential out after this season. There'd be dead cap consequences, but he's due about $37 million next year. Do you think he's playing for his future in Tennessee? How do you interpret this Malik Willis signing? Is it just to kind of inspire Tannehill, or do you think his position's in trouble?
Well, I mean, you could go down the path of saying this might be the last time with the offensive look that the Titans have here. Derrick Henry, even though we say that the injury is not as serious, he becomes 30 next year, and we all know what happens to running backs when they hit 30, they fall off a decided cliff. So it could be the perfect time to transition. Malik Willis is a bizarre skill set for me in this kind. I mean, he does provide, I guess, a little more physicality at the position than Ryan Tannehill, but your play action, being good at play action takes an experienced quarterback, and Ryan Tannehill is one of those. So is he playing for his career? I don't think he's playing for his career, but he might be playing for his position in the future at Tennessee. Because, to be honest, Tannehill could look pretty good in Seattle, perhaps next year, depending on how much cap space they've got. I think he's still a very serviceable quarterback. Good question, though.
Same game. That's not bad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll roll into it as well. I think it's going to be a challenge for Justin Herbert to play against this defense. I think it'll be a real test of his ability to read that 3-4-4-3 kind of. I know you hate it when I say this, Alistair, but the amoebic defensive front. The amoebic defensive front. So that also I'll be looking for Justin Herbert.
Especially when they run it.
What's that?
Especially when they barely run it.
Well, it's, as Andy said, it's that 3-4. There can be
they're a multiple defense. They are
multi-dimensional. So looking for that development of Justin Herbert, I think we win this as well.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on again the defensive four, the Simmons, Danico Autry as well. They really use Hassan Reddick and Bud Dupree well. I think Hassan Reddick was ranked something like 78th in pass rush win percentage in quarterback drop back situations. So he relies a lot more on his moves and bend, but lacks sort of the ability to win by force. So, if you've got a right tackle that can hold up the pocket like Storm Norton, it should be sweet, bro? I think the Chargers win this one at home. But on the Malik Willis draft, I think it was a little bit of fire up Tannehill's backside. I don't think it was a real challenge to his job, but who knows what'll happen. I just hope they don't blame his failures on an inexperienced wide receiver room when he's had such a delightful bevy at his disposal. We'll move right along. Jack hit up the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jag fails. Jag absolute car wreck. Let it be known that I was correct in this prediction. I make a lot of predictions. A lot of them are wrong, but I was correct in this one.
You can call me out too. Set it up. What have I said on it, Jack?
Well, there was a member of this podcast, and Alistair Lloyd was thinking that Urban Meyer actually might be a really good fit for the Chargers because he's experienced, brings that head, he develops a really good culture. Man, if Urban Meyer was dancing with girls in Jacksonville, imagine what he would be doing in LA right now. My Lord, I think the whole Chargers organization would have imploded on itself. Him and the Spanoses would have just had exorbitant parties and things. Anyway, let's not get down that road too far. But we see Urban Meyer leave after one of, if not the most destructive seasons on and off the field a one and done head coach could
never seen anything like it.
Never seen anything like it. Absolutely unbelievable. And I do want to point out that when that happens at a senior leadership position such as head coach, the wound that occurs in an organization for all these players, and I'm not just talking about the on-field, I'm talking about the staff, I'm talking about the physios, the doctors, the front desk people who answer the phones. That guy had such a whirlwind personality, and the way that he spoke to players, the way that he would interact with people, clearly is going to take quite a long time to repair. And it's really unfortunate because you've got, Trevor Lawrence, I think, is very special. I unfortunately think that he's had possibly the worst start of a player of his caliber has ever had in the NFL. So we get Doug Peterson in. Doug Peterson, has obviously, took the Eagles to the Super Bowl, experienced. He's probably walked into a complete shit fight, and there's no other way to say that. They've spent money in the offseason to try and fill some of those holes. I mean, Evan Ingram, I would have liked to see Fatukasi, Folorunson Fatukasi at the Chargers. I thought he's a really solid defensive tackle from New York. But man, there are still holes all over the field. Miles Jack, AJ Khan, JJ Shark, Norwell, Cullen leaves as a DC, Bevel leaves as an OC, brand new coaching staff. Man, hot mess. And unfortunately, it's still even messier because who knows what Trevon Walker's going to be. Round 1, pick 1. He's the high upside pick. Is he going to be what this organization needs? We're going to find out. I think Devin Lloyd at pick 27 I questioned as well. Was it really a need there? They went heavy at at linebacker with Chad Muma in the third as well.
Mm.
So, and this gets me to my point, and I think this really shows where the Jaguars are at. Unfortunately, you get rid of Urban Meyer and you put in a quarterback coach who we know very well.
Yes.
Who is that useless that he can't even wear a full hat. He has to wear a half hat because he's half a coach, really, and that's Mike McCoy.
With half a brain.
With half a brain.
Half a hat.
So,
Half
my Lord, Trevor Lawrence,
Some of your
I feel so sorry for you. I really do. I was very negative on Trevor Lawrence coming out, but now I just feel sorry for you. Other than that, there's not much to say. Alistair, what do you think?
Yes. I think we should not assume. It seems that anyone who replaces Urban Meyer is going to come off smelling like roses. But we shouldn't forget that when Doug Peterson last coached a team, there was some controversy around that. Remember, there was the tanking allegation that Jalen Hurts got taken out at halftime, for Sudfeld, and then he ended up gone. And the offense looked impotent that year. The guys didn't know what they were doing. Carson Wentz was still in the picture. They really struggled. I think like you said, Jack, he still knows what it takes to get a team to the Super Bowl. Has to be somewhat of an improvement on Urban Meyer, but I don't know. I think this team actually has more talent than, 1 win, 2 win, 3 wins team. 3-win teams. They went out and spent a lot of money. I don't think it's smart money, but they definitely bolstered some of the talent on their team. And don't forget, Travis Etienne missed all of the last year. And coming out of college at Clemson, people thought this guy was the real deal. And if they get a few bits of luck going their way, Etienne's healthy. Some of these guys like Scherf and Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and Zay Jones work out, and then a couple of the rookies play well on defense. Maybe they can win 5 or 6 games. Beyond that, I do not dare to venture. I think they're still very much a work in progress. Not a particularly young team either. They're spending lots of cash. It's not like they're in full rebuild mode. I don't know what they're really doing. I do not respect their GM, Trent Baalke. I don't think he runs a very tight operation. So I don't have much positive to say. And I share your sentiments, Jack, that Trevor Lawrence is a figure of sympathy for the time being. Andy, do you have anything more positive to say about this team, or is it more of the same from you?
Yep, positive. I really like the hiring of offensive coordinator Press Taylor, sorry. He coached under Peterson in Philly. They won the Super Bowl, and then he shot off to Indianapolis, I believe. Coached under Frank Reich, who we know and love. And I believe that when you see that drop off of Philadelphia after Press Taylor left, I can't help but feel that he might be the guy that just helps Peterson with the culture and the organization, just to sort of bring things back a little bit, just so this whole stint isn't another Urban Meyer shit show. Other points is that I think they overspent in free agency, and I think they're almost. It seems like they're in sort of a win now kind of mode. They're going to end up in a draft in a cap situation that is completely undesirable just because of how much they've paid these guys. They've got a quarterback who's in his rookie deal, but ultimately, I think that if there's not a big improvement in Trevor Lawrence's game, I'm actually going to call it a fail by the Jags, not on Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is the talent that he is, and he's capable of being. He's the best guy that we've seen coming out of college in God knows how long. Near perfect prospect. So I think, this is a big year for the entire organization, and a lot will come down on Trent Baalke. It's a good scheme fit for Lawrence. College familiarity and the sort of modern West Coast spread from the Reed Peterson tree. So I'm going to get behind Trevor Lawrence this year, that Easter Island statue looking dude. And Yeah, I'm going to say that the Chargers win this game, but I'm going to see like a 6-7 win season from the Jags. I think they're going to improve and sort of leave the Texans in the dirt.
Okay.
Listen, I'll put it like this, right? You think that having a swimming pool at a stadium is an awesome idea. And you think of it, oh, it's going to attract the fans. It's awesome. It's fantastic. It's hot down in Jacksonville. What an awesome idea. It's going to make the game day experience amazing. Trevor Lawrence, awesome. Oh, good. All these pieces. Oh, they're actually spending money. They're trying to help me. They got rid of that guy. Oh, okay. Oh, it's all nice. But ultimately, in the fourth quarter, when your team's down by 3 touchdowns, you're standing in a pool, you smell like salt, you've got this weird warm feeling coming up behind you. You turn around, you see Jeff, the fat guy, passed out in the pool, pissing himself, and you've got urine around your ankles. And you look at your beer, it's warm, it's wet, and you go, what the hell am I doing?
I paid a membership for this, you know.
And that's what's going to happen to Trevor Lawrence at the end. He's going to be standing in warm piss going, I thought this was cool, but actually this just sucks because now I've got a skin rash. So listen, I see this as being a very much a win for the Chargers. I think it'll be an absolute thrashing. I don't hold the positivity you have, Andy. I don't see them winning any more than 4 games. Skin rashes and piss stained pools aside, what
UTI's in the pool in Duval.
what I think Urban Meyer's done there, and I think that the impact that's going to have on Trevor Lawrence mentally, I think is going to take quite a while to heal. Alistair.
We're going to win the game. That's all I've got to say. I don't have the intellectual prowess to go with an illusion on the UTIs or the piss stains of the pool at the time being, but we will win this game and win it comfortably. All right, I'll move on to the very last team on today's show. If you're still with us, listeners, after that tirade from Big Jack. Last team are the Houston Texans. And look, unfortunately, we don't have anywhere too much more positive to go with the Texans compared to the last team we just discussed. But this is a team that just has not covered itself in much glory recently. What they did to David Culley, I thought was atrocious. It was reprehensible. They set him up to fail, and he exceeded expectations. They only won 4 games, but they were competitive. The team didn't give up.
They beat us.
Yeah, look, you had to mention it. I was still kind of dealing with that, but that's all right. And you know, they were in a very unfortunate position where what happened with Deshaun Watson happened. They were pretty set at that position, ready to go. You've got franchise quarterback, face of the franchise. It's not easy to pivot from that scenario, but I don't like the way they're set up. There's just there's an air of racism around the ownership, frankly, and the way they have kind of treated minority candidates over the years. There's a stink around that, I think. Even though Pep Hamilton is in the big boys chair, I don't like his prospects of hanging around very long. He's a well-respected coach in the league. If you came up with a list of the 10 best defensive coordinators of the past 20 years, he's in there. A head coach for a long time at the Bears, then went off to Tampa, and he originally learned under Tony Dungy back at the Bucs way back in the early 2000s when they were competing for Super Bowls. Really that kind of Tampa 2, cover 2 defensive system. He's a good coach. He is getting a bit long in the tooth, though. He's kind of an elderly statesman at this stage of his career. You've seen Pep Hamilton get promoted to OC, which Chargers fans will appreciate.
Well done, Pep. Yep.
Yeah, good on you, Pep.
After he did well with Justin Herbert in his rookie year. There has been some movement, but not a lot of inspiring movement. So I'll open it up more broadly now. Andy, sell a story to give Texan fans hope. What part of this team do you like? What should Texans fans be excited about?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna stick with Pep Hamilton, promoted to offensive coordinator this year. I believe that due to his broad coaching tree, pro-style influenced, I believe he should be able to adapt a scheme to David Mills, a power run scheme to fit the immobile guards on the offensive line. I formation, Mills under center, pretty average run game. But if you allow David Mills the time to process and operate within this system, I think he can execute. It might not be great, but I don't think it's going to be that crap. So that's as positive as I can get. And I can feel the ulcers in my mouth because I'm lying to myself.
I was going to say it's a very short story. It's the kind of Davis Mills high upside story with Pep Hamilton.
I think I just called him David as well.
He's only been in the league.
Let me
What a guy.
let me tell you
You try,
something.
Jack.
Let me tell you. You know
You're
what?
much better at
Okay,
this than I am. I'm
let's.
an electrician.
I'm a teacher. I sell dreams.
I ruin them.
Well, I either sell or ruin. It's either way. Depends on when you get me. I actually look at their draft and go, you know what? I really like it. I love the Derek Stingley pick. I think he's a culture changer. I really like the Kenyon Green pick. It was he and Zion Johnson were sort of buoying for that. Who's the better guard in that draft class? I personally, and I know that both of you did, really liked Jalen Petra at safety. He's that do-it-all gadget kind of. I think that's a really clever pick. All those guys should start. All those guys should come in and make an impact. It was really sad to hear this week that John Mechie has come down. I think, was it leukemia?
Lymphoma, I think.
Lymphoma?
Leukemia.
Lymphoma.
Leukemia. Sorry.
Leukemia, yeah. So obviously, the best wishes go out to John Mechie because he was another one of those, those wide receivers, those gadgety wide receivers, fast that could have been really fun for Davis Mills to throw to. And then you get into Christian Harris and Damian Pierce, Alistair. I know that you and I had a couple of conversations about him being that sort of that could have been a really good compliment to perhaps Austin Eckler in certain ways. So when I look at that, I go, you know what? They've made all the correct picks there. Davis
It's like
Mills,
a great draft. It could be a great draft on paper.
Well, I think you've got three in your first three picks there. I think you could have Derek Stingley has the capability to be a Pro Bowler. Kenyon Green, and if he's in any ilk the same as Zion Johnson, could have that caliber. And Petre and Mechie if he gets healthy, and Pierce. So I think from a macro position and a team building position, I think they've done all right there.
Yep. Well done. I agree 100%.
It's a good point. I rate that.
Don't have a whole lot more to say about this team. I still think they're a work in progress. And if you look at the roster, it does look like a kind of 32nd team in the league type of roster for the most part. They have real problems up front on the defensive side of the ball. There is just a dearth of talent on offense at the skill positions. It's really Brandon Cook and then nothing. So, yeah, I think they're in it. I'd rather support the Texans doing this than the Jags, what they're doing at the moment. Because at least here you can see, wow, smart draft picks. Yeah. They're not trying to spend in free agency. Look at their incoming free agents. They're really kind of lunch pail guys who are just in to cash a check and then might not be in the team for in a year's time. If you look at what the Jags have done, by contrast, that they're in this weird, are we trying to win? Why are we paying top of the market for Christian Kirk? Nick Caserio here has gone, okay, this is a 2 to 3 year rebuild. Davis Mills earned a second year to see if he can play at this level. And in the meantime, we're going to be very smart with how we draft. So I think it's a step in the right direction for Texans fans. You're going to have to be patient. They're probably a 4-win team this year, but they're slowly building to be competitive in 2024.
Yeah. Yeah, the upside's brighter, I think, than it is in Jacksonville for these guys. Exactly, great point. They drafted well. You look to the future. I looked for positives for this year. And Jack, I think you nailed it, man. The future does look pretty good in Houston. They've got a lot of cultural issues to deal with and a lot of sort of bad water to wash out. But fuck, Jacksonville are a joke. So I think you're right. I think this year's going to be pretty tough for the Texans again. 4, 5 wins, 4. I think 4 is almost generous. But this year is not one of those wins will be against the Chargers. I pray tell that. We are going to win this game against the Texans. And for me, we're going to sweep the AFC South.
Nice one.
Ooh, nice. I think we win this game too. And I think this game gets very ugly for the Texans. I think Brandon Staley will want to come out and kill the Texans and absolutely destroy them. So if I was a Texans fan, I'd be very, very worried for the health of Davis Mills tibia because I feel like Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack will come out and absolutely do some damage. So yeah, I'm saying we win this game too. In a statement win.
Absolutely.
In a statement win. A statement win.
It has to be. We play them early on, week 4 or week 3 or something?
Yeah, week 4. It's at Houston. So to your point, Jack, it's making amends. It's retribution. It's all of the above, absolution. And Chargers win and sweep the AFC South because I've predicted wins against all those teams like you have, Andy. And nice. I think that's it. That's the end of our
2 divisions for this week. Right on. Well, I went 7-1 in a win-loss column from these 2 divisions. I think we'll get done by the Rams, but I'm confident that we'll knock them off. What did you guys have out of interest?
Oh, geez, I can't remember.
Yeah, I've got 2 losses, I think. Yeah, losses to the Niners and the Rams.
Yep.
Have I gone 8-0? Because I think I may have. Because I said we're beating the Colts. No, I said we'll lose to. Listen, I could be wrong. I can't remember, but just I'm going through it now, and I said we'll probably lose to Tennessee.
Tell us in the comments. Is Jack speaking?
Yeah. Am I? Or I've picked 8-0, and let's go Chargers.
Fantastic. Yeah, man, I'd love that. 8-0 against these 2 divisions would be pretty sweet. Well, it was good to get back to sort of the analysing of other teams, just for a bit of fun, just to sort of see what we're coming up against. We've knocked off the NFC West. We've knocked off the AFC South. Next week, we'll be looking at our divisional rivals and obviously getting real stuck into those 3 teams. And then the other 3 teams that we play, the Browns, the Dolphins, and the Falcons, to wrap up our opponent series. It's been awesome having you guys with us. Please, in the comments below, tell us what you think. Are there any big matchups that you're looking forward to see? Any results that you disagree with? Are we going to go 8-0 in these 8 games? Wouldn't that be a treat? Well, guys, until next time, you can find us at TDU_Chargers or on either of our personal handles, Andy, Jack, or Alistair. Like I said, it's been great to have you with us. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
See you guys.
See you later.